Hello, everyone. This is Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I'm going to do a systems check because I want to announce something that's pretty obvious based on the title of this particular this video. My wife is checking for me. She's my systems engineer now for Hangouts.
Title looks like a porn title, but otherwise.
All right. Yeah, she said it looks like a porn title. That's fine. That's his name. I think it's a badass name, personally. Hard bastard. The first video I think I've seen of his, he was talking about one of my clips. It was a clip of mine that I actually didn't like. And he was using it in one of his videos. He was using it in a positive way, though. It was me flipping out over Justice Democrats attacking same progressive. So Hard Bastard invited me on his show. He has a live call-in show. And he invited me to come on his show to talk about automation, ethics, integrity in regards to media, politicians, et cetera, et cetera. The stuff I tend to talk about and bitch about and complain about and whine about. Or go on about, droning on and on about. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'm still doing the thing with Tim Black. That's going to be at 9 p.m. on his show for context. But 8 p.m. to probably 8:50. I'm going to be on Hard Bastard. Look him up. His live show comes on tomorrow. So I'll be there. That's going to be interesting. Hard Bastard. He said he left the left. Now, to be fair, just because you say you left the left, it doesn't necessarily mean you're right. And our left-right paradigm, we have this idea that just because you're either one or the other. But that's somewhat of a false choice. Parties are somewhat of a false choice. It's like a Democrat says this, Republican says this, and the range of debate is these two. That's a false choice. There's a wider range of debate. I'd even make the argument that having that choice like that dichotomy between the two, it almost like from a perception point, creates it as these two ranges, which allows you to exclude these other ranges. So it's like the things that you need to say that aren't being said. So the things that aren't being said are the things that actually really need to be said, or the things that actually need to be talked about and discussed. But you can obfuscate, you can hide based upon what they're talking about, if that makes sense. Like in that sense, communication, political context, it's not there to give you information. It's not there to inform. It's not there to help you out in any particular way. It's there to obfuscate. These are things that we should be talking about in regards to our particular society, our particular world, our even particular ecological health, our financial monetary health, for that matter. But those aren't the things that are talked about. By them talking about, should we have, these gender bathrooms? Should we have, it's just weird stuff. If you look at the laws that these guys are passing, and you think of the main issues, the big issues that affect things, that actually will change society. Like, for example, automation. Off the table. Off the table. One policy position after the next creates more and more poverty. Not because they're doing anything in particular, but more so just because of the way the model drives it. Somebody wants to maximize profit. How do you maximize profit? Hey, if I can fire that worker, that maximizes profit. I can suck that cash up if I don't have to pay him, but I can still get the productivity. Shouldn't you talk about that? I mean, shouldn't you talk about this drive towards more poverty in a particular society? That seems like a big goddamn deal. If you're talking about increases in crime, if you're talking about increases in aberrant behavior, just in people in general, the things that people do when they don't have their needs met. That's our society. That's our world. Language in politics is used to obfuscate. We're not talking about the model itself. In fact, the model itself is not even on the table, even though the model is the thing you need to be talking about. The economic debate usually ranges between taxes. Hey, should we take a tax from this guy? Should we give a tax cut to this other guy? Maybe there's a wider debate that needs to be had. Maybe there's a wider debate. I guess the point I'm making in this kind of, look, it's a tangent because I was only going to talk about announcing the show. But, and again, this is why live shows are kind of weird and ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but they're kind of weird in that sense. You end up in weird places. Part of the conversation he wants to have is about integrity. The argument I usually make is these guys are paid to do a particular thing. Now, whether they realize it or not, they're leaning a particular way. Well, if you have a super PAC, you know the super PAC can either give you money or put money against you. Which way are you going to lean? Even if you're on the left, even if you're on the right, They're things that you lean towards, but those things that you lean towards are influencing you, and it's influencing the policy and the regulation. The right wing has things that it leans towards. The left wing has things that it leans towards. In both cases, they're influencing the conversation. I don't want cash influencing the conversation. There's a certain amount of integrity of saying, hey, let's have fair elections. Let's have fair elections. Let's not have things adversely affect our elections. Part of this also goes into, let's not have ridiculous conversations that serve to hide and obfuscate the real issues that need to be had. Real issues that would adversely affect the people who are paying me to lean a particular way. All right, I'll leave it at that. This is, again, kind of going off the rails. But I will be on Hard Bastard tomorrow, 8 p.m. That should be fun. That should be damn interesting. I think what I was getting at before was, just because he said he left the left doesn't necessarily mean he's to the right. You can give this false impression in the sense of saying, I've left the left. Technically, that just means you're no longer whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're a Republican. My hypothesis is that he's not a righty. I think he's still a lefty. I think he's a lefty that's pissed at the left, though. That's my hypothesis. Just looking at his videos, I get the feeling of somebody who's like also full of shit. You get a certain amount of a pass because it's like the handicapped kid in a classroom. For whatever reason, you know, something's wrong with that kid. So you don't necessarily problem. Thing is, they are the problem. Their fecklessness and weakness creates a problem. I was a little pissed at the left for whatever reason, even though I had certain sensibilities that wasn't really to the hard right. Maybe you're centrist. I can see that. I mean, maybe, I guess I take my hypothesis is he's a centrist. He's somewhat pissed off at some of the stuff the left gets away with. That's my hypothesis. So I don't know. We'll talk about it. I look forward to it. This should be pretty awesome and pretty interesting. I know he's further to the right than I am. So that by itself should be a pretty damn interesting conversation. But they've said that the right and the left have met somewhere. I'd argue that Venn diagram. I'm going to leave it at this. I've been having the sick thrill and the sick fascination with this idea of point in regards to society that you can meet that would get these centrists out of office, creating a new fulcrum in regards to politics in this country. That's what I've been thinking about. When you think about the things that Sanders kind of created a firestorm for, not just on the left, but also on the right. He drilled certain things into public consciousness. And in drilling those things into public consciousness, it wasn't just the lefties. It was also people on the right. Not to mention, you're talking about independence. That's a society. That's a power base. That's a voting coalition. If you can pull those people to the polls, that is called a win. That's called a win. That's called a movement. Now, the question is, how do you galvanize those people to do that and realize that those people are together? Now, the people who are on the right will agree with you on economics. They may even take this argument in regards to automation and federal job guarantee. They might. Immigration, you're going to have to fight them. Like, that's a fight. I'm sorry. Now, the majority of the country does want sane immigration policies. So that's true. But it's like, what's that center point where you get enough people to say this is a winning coalition? You have people from the right, you have people from the left, you have people from the center. That's a winning coalition. In fact, you don't even need people from the center because they're the most unpopular. Independents, the far left and the far right. And even this term far left, far right doesn't really mean anything. Ultimately, you have a center that is dramatically unpopular. The majority of the population calls itself something else other than Republican or Democrat. Is that the center if the rest of the population is something else? These things are just words. These things are the things that the press and the narratives that they create. You have to interrogate those narratives to see whether they're real, though. I mean, oftentimes these narratives are just the popular opinion, the things that they're spouting off at the time. And sometimes they're aimed at a very particular point or a very particular thing that they need you to believe or want you to believe. If the left and right can meet at a particular point, you've changed politics overnight. you've literally have found a point where, all right, we can agree on this, or we can move forward on this based on some kind of Venn diagram, and we're going to vote according to this. That's what I want. When I come up with this idea of summits and everything else, that's kind of what I'm talking about, like of American population. And I know that's abstract. I just mean, if you're looking at what's a real center point, not this garbage that they have in Washington, the real center point of the country is further to the left of what they have in Washington. No, it's not where I am, but it's further to the left of what they have in Washington. I'm making this point, if you get center point, you have a different country. If Hardbastard is open to having a conversation, and if there's a center point in which we meet, which I do think there is, I would say a certain level of integrity in regards to the office. Even if I disagree with you, I just need to know you're being earnest with me. I would argue that that's a center point. That's a center point. Jaded conversation these guys have in Washington has nothing to do with this ideological struggle that the news media makes you believe it is. It's, hey, here's money in your G-string. Go out there and perform. I'm saying that needs to change. It needs to be a more integrity-filled process. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., Hardbastard. I will be on this live show. Thanks, guys.